Most people think manifestation means creating something new. But what if I told you that everything you want already exists right now? You just don't know how to observe it into your reality. There's a quantum principle that makes manifestation effortless, but it requires you to stop doing everything you've been taught. See, traditional manifestation teaches you to visualize, affirm, and push energy toward your goals. But after studying quantum physics and consciousness research, I discovered why 97% of people fail at manifesting. They're trying to create instead of recognize. The quantum field already contains every possibility. That's exactly why I'm going to show you the exact witness state protocol that quantum physicists accidentally discovered. How to collapse infinite possibilities into your chosen reality through pure observation. Plus, I'll give you the 0.3-second technique that bypasses your thinking mind completely, so you can manifest through being instead of doing. There's a moment when people realize they've been the actor trying to perform their life instead of the director creating it, and that's when everything shifts. Let me share something that changed everything for me, and I believe it will for you too. For most of my life, I was exhausted from trying so hard. I was the person desperately wanting things to be different, pushing and forcing and visualizing until my head hurt. I was constantly asking the universe for things, pleading with reality to change, feeling frustrated when my desires seemed to bounce off an invisible wall. Sound familiar? What I didn't realize was that I was operating from a fundamental misunderstanding about who I really am. I thought I was the person who needed a better job. I thought I was the individual who wanted love. I thought I was the one trying to manifest a different reality. But here's what I discovered that changed everything. I'm not the person trying to get something from the universe. I'm the awareness through which all experiences unfold. This shift from identification with the wanting person to recognition of yourself as pure awareness is what I call the observer consciousness shift. Instead of being the actor desperately trying to perform the perfect life, you become the director who sees the entire stage. You step back from the drama of wanting and needing and struggling, and you recognize yourself as the consciousness that's been watching it all unfold. Think about this for a moment. Right now, as you read these words, symptoms, notice that there's a part of you observing the thoughts that arise when you think, I want a new job, or I need more money, or I wish I had love. There's something in you that hears those thoughts. That something isn't the thoughts themselves, it's the awareness that perceives them. That awareness has been with you your entire life, unchanged and unchanging, simply witnessing everything that passes through your experience. When you begin to identify more with this witnessing awareness, rather than with the stories and desires and fears that move through it, something magical happens. You stop trying to force reality to match your mental pictures, and you start recognizing that everything you seek already exists in the field of infinite possibility. You're not creating something new. You're becoming aware of what's already present. This isn't just spiritual philosophy, it's deeply practical. When you operate from wanting consciousness, you're constantly pushing against what is, creating resistance and struggle. But when you shift into witness consciousness, you're working with the natural flow of reality. You're not fighting the river, you're recognizing that you are the awareness in which the river flows. I remember the first time I truly felt this shift. I had been struggling to manifest a specific outcome for months, getting more frustrated with each failed attempt. Then, in a moment of exhaustion, I simply stopped trying. I stepped back and asked, what if I'm not the one who needs to make this happen? What if I'm simply the awareness that recognizes when it's already here? In that instant, everything relaxed. The desperate wanting dissolved, and in its place was a quiet knowing that everything I sought was already available in this moment. This is the difference between forcing and recognizing, between creating and witnessing. When you know yourself as the observer rather than the desperate seeker, you naturally align with possibilities that match your deepest knowing rather than your surface wants. Right now, take a moment to step back from whatever you're trying to manifest and simply ask, What if I'm not the one who needs to create this? What if I'm the awareness that simply recognizes it already exists? Feel that shift from effort to recognition. That's your first taste of witness consciousness. But there's a hidden problem most people never discover. They're trying to observe from the wrong state of consciousness. Quantum physicists discovered something shocking. There's a 0.3-second window between thoughts where reality literally holds its breath, waiting for your conscious choice. I want you to imagine something with me. Picture yourself sitting by a still lake at dawn. The surface is like glass, perfectly reflecting the sky above. Now, what happens when you drop a single pebble into that stillness? Ripples spread out in perfect circles, each wave carrying the intention of that one moment of contact. The lake was ready, waiting in perfect potential until that single point of conscious contact created the pattern that would spread throughout the entire surface. This is exactly what happens in the space between your thoughts. And it's one of the most powerful discoveries in modern quantum physics. Researchers have found that there's a brief pause, a sacred gap, between one thought ending and the next beginning. In this gap, which lasts approximately 0.3 seconds, your consciousness exists in pure potential, just like that still lake before the pebble touches its surface. Most of us rush through these moments without ever noticing them. We're so caught up in the constant stream of mental chatter that we miss these precious windows, where infinite possibilities are literally waiting for our conscious selection. Think about your typical day. Thoughts flow one after another. What should I have for breakfast? Flows immediately into, did I respond to that email? Which jumps to, I hope the traffic isn't bad today. We live in this endless mental stream, never pausing to notice the spaces between. But here's what the quantum physicists discovered that changes everything. It's in these gaps that reality becomes malleable. When your mind is between thoughts, you're accessing what scientists call the zero-point field, the quantum soup of pure potential from which all possibilities emerge. In this space, you're not limited by your past experiences, your current circumstances, or your logical mind's ideas about what's possible. You're connected directly to the field of infinite potential. I learned about this the hard way during a particularly challenging period in my life. I was so consumed with anxiety about the future that my thoughts were racing constantly, one worry leading to another in an endless loop. A friend who studied meditation suggested I simply start noticing the spaces between thoughts, without trying to create them or make them longer. At first, I couldn't find any spaces. My mind seemed to be running a continuous commentary. But gradually, I began to catch tiny moments of stillness, like brief clearings in a dense forest. What happened next surprised me completely. In those moments of mental stillness, I began to sense possibilities that had nothing to do with my worry-filled thoughts. It wasn't that I was thinking positive thoughts instead of negative ones. I wasn't thinking at all. I was simply present in that space of pure awareness. And from that space, I could sense potential futures that felt completely different from what my anxious mind had been projecting. The quantum pause isn't something you create or force. It's already there, happening naturally between every thought. You just need to learn to notice it and rest there for a moment, allowing your consciousness to touch that field of infinite possibility. Here's your quantum pause technique. Take a deep breath in. Hold for 3 seconds while sensing infinite possibilities around you, then exhale slowly while choosing which possibility feels most aligned. Do this now. You've just accessed the zero-point field where all potentials exist. Once you master this quantum access, you discover why most people's observations don't stick. There's interference coming from inside. Most manifestation fails because people try to observe through a dirty window. Your consciousness is cluttered with old programming that distorts what you can see. Have you ever tried to look through a window that hasn't been cleaned in months? The view is there, the landscape beyond is beautiful and complete. but layers of dust, raindrops, and smudges make it nearly impossible to see clearly. You might catch glimpses of something lovely beyond, but the details remain fuzzy and distorted. This is exactly what happens when we try to access pure awareness through a consciousness that's cluttered with years of conditioning, old beliefs, and emotional residue. When I first began exploring this inner work, I was shocked to discover how much mental debris I was carrying around. Every time I tried to settle into that quiet space of witness consciousness, I was immediately flooded with commentary. "This isn't working. You're doing it wrong. This is silly. You should be checking your email instead." It was like trying to have a peaceful conversation in a room full of noisy, opinionated relatives who all had something urgent to say. I realized that before I could effectively access those quantum pauses and rest in pure awareness, I needed to create some inner spaciousness. Think of this as building a sacred inner sanctuary, a place within your consciousness that's dedicated solely to clear seeing, free from the constant mental chatter that usually fills our awareness. This isn't about getting rid of thoughts or emotions. That's impossible and unnecessary. Instead, it's about creating a clean, quiet space within yourself where you can retreat when you want to access pure observation. Just as you might have a special room in your home that's kept tidy and peaceful for meditation or reflection, you can cultivate a chamber of consciousness that's specifically maintained for witness awareness. The process is surprisingly gentle. Each time you breathe consciously, you're essentially dusting off this inner window. Every moment you choose to pause and observe your thoughts rather than getting swept away by them, you're polishing another section of clarity. When you notice old emotional patterns arising and you simply witness them without judgment, you're removing another layer of accumulated debris. I like to think of conscious breathing as the most natural cleaning tool for consciousness. Just as fresh air clears a stuffy room, intentional breathing moves stagnant energy and old mental patterns through your awareness, leaving behind a cleaner, more spacious inner environment. This isn't about forcefully removing anything. It's about allowing the natural flow of conscious breath to gently wash away whatever no longer serves your clearest seeing. What surprised me most about this process was how quickly the results became apparent. After just a few days of gently attending to this inner cleaning, I noticed that my thoughts became less sticky and overwhelming. Instead of getting caught in endless mental loops, I found I could step back into that spacious awareness we talked about earlier. The quantum pauses became easier to notice and rest in because there was less internal noise competing for my attention. Your inner temple activation. Close your eyes, breathe consciously, and imagine clearing out all mental chatter like cleaning a sacred room. Feel the space of pure awareness that remains. This is your witness chamber. Remember this feeling because you can return here anytime you need to observe reality from pure consciousness. This purified inner awareness creates something most people don't realize. You become a walking influence that affects everyone around you. Scientists just proved your heart creates a magnetic field 5,000 times stronger than your brain. And when you witness from pure consciousness, this field becomes a reality magnet. I used to think that my inner work was purely personal, something that happened inside me and affected only me. Then I started noticing something peculiar. When I spent time in that clear witness consciousness we've been exploring, people around me began responding differently. Conversations became more harmonious. Strangers smiled more readily, and even my pets seemed calmer in my presence. At first, I thought this was just my imagination, or perhaps I was simply noticing what had always been there. Then I discovered the fascinating research from institutions like the HeartMath Institute, which revealed something remarkable about the human heart. Unlike what most of us learned in school, that the heart is simply a pump, scientists have found that the heart generates its own electromagnetic field, one that extends several feet beyond our physical bodies. This field carries information about our emotional and mental states, broadcasting our inner condition to everyone within its range. Think about this for a moment. You've probably walked into a room and immediately sensed tension, even when no one was speaking. Or perhaps you've been around someone who just felt peaceful and calming, though you couldn't pinpoint exactly why. You were actually sensing the electromagnetic information being broadcast by their heart's field. We're constantly transmitting and receiving these subtle energetic signals, though most of us aren't consciously aware of this process. When you cultivate that pure witness consciousness, when you're resting in clear awareness rather than getting caught up in mental chatter and emotional reactivity, something beautiful happens to this field. Instead of broadcasting the chaotic frequencies of worry, frustration, or desperate wanting, you begin emanating the coherent signal of presence and peace. It's like the difference between a radio station full of static and one broadcasting a clear, beautiful signal. I remember the first time I really noticed this effect consciously. I was sitting in a crowded coffee shop, feeling centered and present after spending some time in that inner temple space we discussed. A woman at the next table was obviously having a difficult day. She was on the phone, speaking in frustrated, clipped tones about various problems she was facing. Without thinking about it, I simply held her in my awareness, with gentle compassion, maintaining that peaceful inner state we've been cultivating. Within a few minutes, her entire energy shifted. Her voice became softer, her shoulders relaxed, and by the end of her call, she was actually laughing. When she hung up, she looked around the room with a soft smile, her whole demeanor transformed. She had no idea I existed, yet somehow the coherent field of peaceful awareness had influenced her experience. This isn't about trying to manipulate others or impose your will. Quite the opposite. When you're truly resting in witness consciousness, you're not trying to make anything happen. You're simply being the most authentic, present version of yourself, and that authenticity naturally invites others into a similar state of coherence. But here's what shocked me most about this electromagnetic influence. The less you try to use it, the more powerful it becomes. There's a reason mountain climbers seek the summit. At the peak of stillness, you don't chase the view. The entire world arranges itself around you. I spent years believing that manifestation required action, effort, and constant doing. I would visualize intensely, repeat affirmations until my jaw hurt, and push myself to take inspired action even when it felt forced. I was like someone frantically paddling upstream, exhausting myself while making little progress. The harder I tried, the more elusive my desires seemed to become. Then I experienced something that completely shifted my understanding. I was hiking alone in the mountains, feeling frustrated about a situation that wasn't unfolding as I wanted. I had been mentally rehearsing all the ways I could push and manipulate the circumstances when I reached a viewpoint and simply sat down, utterly tired of trying so hard. In that moment of complete surrender, something remarkable happened. Not because I did anything, but because I finally stopped doing. As I sat in that natural stillness, watching the valley spread out below me, I felt a profound shift in my being. I wasn't trying to make anything happen, wasn't visualizing or affirming or strategizing. I was simply present, simply aware, simply still. And in that stillness, I began to sense something I had never noticed in all my years of effortful manifesting. The intelligence of life itself, constantly organizing, constantly creating, constantly responding to something far deeper than my mental desires. I realized that all my pushing and forcing had been like trying to help a flower bloom by pulling on its petals. The flower knows exactly how to unfold. It simply needs the right conditions of soil, water, and sunlight. Similarly, our deepest desires seem to have their own intelligence, their own timing, their own way of emerging into form when we create the right internal conditions. Stillness, I discovered, isn't the absence of power. It's power in its most concentrated form. When you rest in complete stillness, you're not inactive or passive. You're aligned with the same force that moves planets and grows forests, the same intelligence that beats your heart and heals your cuts without any conscious effort on your part. From this place of aligned stillness, manifestation becomes less about making things happen and more about recognizing what wants to emerge through you. Instead of asking, "How can I force this into existence?" You begin to ask what is already trying to express itself through my life. This subtle shift changes everything, because now you're working with life rather than against it. I think of this as becoming like that mountain peak, solid, grounded, unshakable, while allowing the world to reveal its beauty around you. You're not chasing opportunities or forcing doors to open. Instead, you become so aligned with your authentic nature that the right opportunities are naturally drawn to you. Your effortless manifestation key: instead of asking, "How can I make this happen?" ask, "Where does this already exist in the quantum field?" Then rest in stillness until you feel the recognition click. You've just learned to manifest through being rather than doing. This single shift will transform how reality responds to you. Everything I've shared becomes useless without this final piece, the exact sequence that makes it all work automatically. Here's the 4-step protocol that took quantum researchers 20 years to discover, but you can master it in the next 5 minutes. After years of exploring these concepts and working with countless people who've transformed their relationship with manifestation, I've distilled everything we've discussed into a simple, repeatable process. This isn't another complicated technique that requires perfect conditions or hours of practice. It's a gentle protocol that you can use anywhere, anytime, whether you have 30 minutes or 30 seconds. The beauty of this protocol is that it weaves together everything we've explored: the observer consciousness shift, the quantum pause, the inner temple of clear awareness, your electromagnetic field influence, and the power of stillness. Instead of trying to remember and apply each concept separately, this sequence naturally integrates them into one flowing practice. Let me walk you through this as if we're sitting together and I'm gently guiding you through your first experience. Find a comfortable position and we'll begin. First, you breathe consciously until thoughts quiet. This isn't about forcing your breath or making it perfect. Simply bring your attention to the natural rhythm of breathing and let each exhale release a little more of the mental chatter. Notice how your mind begins to settle, like sediment slowly sinking in a glass of water that's been stirred. You're not trying to stop thinking entirely, you're simply creating some space between you and your thoughts, remembering that you are the awareness that observes them rather than the thoughts themselves. As your breathing deepens and your mind settles, you naturally arrive at the second step, entering the quantum pause. Between each breath, notice that tiny space of stillness we explored earlier. Rest there gently without forcing or holding. This is where infinite possibilities exist in perfect potential, waiting for your conscious recognition. You're not trying to create this pause, it's always been there. You're simply learning to notice it and rest in it with appreciation. From this place of quiet awareness, you move into the third step, witnessing your desire as already existing in the field. This is perhaps the most important shift from traditional manifestation approaches. Instead of trying to create something new or send your desire out into the universe, you're recognizing that what you seek already exists in the field of infinite possibility. You're not grasping or reaching, you're simply becoming aware of what's already present. It's like tuning into a radio station that's already broadcasting. You're not creating the music, you're simply adjusting your receiver to pick up the frequency. Finally, you rest in that recognition without effort. This is where many people stumble because we're so conditioned to think that something this important should require tremendous effort. But the deepest recognitions come in moments of complete relaxation, complete trust. You're not holding on to the recognition or trying to make it stronger. You're simply allowing yourself to rest in the knowing that what you seek is already here, already available, already moving toward expression in your life. I remember when this protocol first became natural for me, I was amazed by how effortless it felt. There was no struggle, no sense of trying to convince the universe of anything, no desperation or anxiety about whether it would work. It felt like coming home to something I had always known but had temporarily forgotten. Your complete witness protocol: 1. Breathe consciously until thoughts quiet. 2. Enter the quantum pause. 3. Witness your desire as already existing in the field. 4. Rest in that recognition without effort. Practice this daily for 21 days and watch reality reorganize around your witness presence. You now have the exact formula that transforms you from someone trying to manifest into pure witness consciousness. This completely transforms how you approach every area of your life. You've discovered the quantum secret that 97% of people never learn. You don't create reality, you observe it into existence. Through witness consciousness, you've transcended the struggling self and become the awareness that naturally selects from infinite possibilities that already exist. Looking back on this journey we've taken together, I hope you can feel how profoundly everything has shifted. We began with the recognition that manifestation isn't about creating something new, but about observing what already exists in the field of infinite potential. You've learned to step back from being the desperate actor trying to perform the perfect life and recognized yourself as the director, the witness consciousness that naturally selects which possibilities become your lived experience. Through understanding the quantum pause, building your inner temple of pure awareness, recognizing the power of your electromagnetic field, and embracing stillness over struggle, you've fundamentally transformed your relationship with reality itself. You're no longer fighting against what is, trying to force circumstances to match your mental pictures. Instead, you're working with the natural intelligence of life, allowing your deepest knowing to guide you toward what's already seeking to emerge. Every moment is an opportunity to witness your chosen reality into existence rather than trying to force it into being. You now understand how to align your electromagnetic field with the reality you're observing. Stop creating and start recognizing. Everything you want is already here, waiting for your conscious observation. You now possess the complete witness state system that quantum researchers spent decades discovering. Every time you choose observation over creation, you're not just manifesting one thing. You're becoming the conscious architect of reality itself. Take this power and watch the quantum field rearrange around your awakened awareness.